Alrighty, we're back. The Orioles are back. It is Friday. We're in Texas. Man, this is going to be a tough series. It's a big series. The Rangers are teetering on trading their players. Do they buy players? They're 4 games under 500. They are desperate. We're going to get their best shot. They kicked our ass last time we played on Sunday Night Baseball, but we did win the first three. So I'm going to get to the Orioles in one moment. But just quick housekeeping thing. What I decided to do over the past few days, I broke down baseball. I went, obviously I'm paying attention to what's happening every day, but from a gambling perspective, as I've mentioned before, I don't have enough confidence to just bet baseball games. I'm not following it as close as I need to. So I use this break to really catch up, go into, there's certain teams that they're too much in flux or I'm not interested in, or I don't have any opinion on. Then there's a handful of teams that I have more of an opinion on and so forth. And after breaking it all down, I said, you know what? I think it'll be best if I wait till after the trade deadline. Let's see what these teams do, follow it for the next 10 days, give some like mock bets on my own, kind of try some things out, see where my head's at with certain teams, who I want to follow for the rest of the season. And then I'll be adding for the last 2 months of baseball season, along with my Oriole bets every day. I'm going to pick at least one, maybe two teams that I feel comfortable after the trade deadline, where I have a prediction of how they're going to finish. And then I can bet accordingly on a day-to-day basis. Won't have nearly as many bets as I end up doing with the Orioles because I'm much more familiar with all of the Orioles players and the organization. But that's something to look forward to here in the next 10 days. I'm excited about that. And that'll basically be how I approach football, right? The games that I'm going to end up betting on and the guys that are on here to give out the games, I expect people to do the necessary research to just give out the games. But again, it's always a disclaimer, and I'll be saying this, especially as I relaunch and bring new people on. We're not doing the top-down approach, which is bet this game, it's a lock, it's a guarantee. If we love the game and you love it, then go ahead and bet on it. If I love the game, somebody here loves the game, and you love the opposite, go bet the opposite. If we're influencing you one way or the other, it's to do more work. It's not to bet the game. It's to do the research, hopefully saying something, breaking down something that sparks something in your head that leads to you getting a winning bet. That's what we're trying to do. And we're not pretending like it's easy at all. And that's when, bad things happen when you think it's easy or this game's a lock. We've all been down that path, I'm sure. So, all right, that will be yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for the relaunch. So I appreciate everybody staying on board. It is happening on Monday. I've just been traveling so much more this summer than I initially anticipated. So I'll be back Monday in Georgia and ready to go. So appreciate again everybody sticking with me. And let's get into the Orioles. So I wanted to wait until the lineup came out to record. I had all these thoughts, and I'm like, let me see exactly what Hyde does, because I had a feeling Stowers wouldn't be in the lineup. I was hoping I was wrong, but here we go. So I've thought about this probably an unhealthy amount. I don't know exactly how much energy you guys are putting into the roster and the trade deadline, but I spent a lot of time because I don't want to be wishy-washy. I've been wishy-washy for the past month. I want to see how things play out. And this is what I landed on. I don't have the trade partners yet. So that's my next step. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself yet because I still feel like we need another week to know exactly who's going to be available. There's certain guys that are becoming obvious that they're going to be available. Guys on the Angels and the White Sox. Yeah, you would assume the guys on the White Sox. That's a separate conversation because they have some interesting things going on with ownership. But regardless, there's certain teams that are out of it. The Marlins, the Rockies, where you can anticipate their their top guys being traded. But then there's about 5 to 7, 8 teams that I think it really depends. And the Rangers are one of them. It really depends on how the next 2 weeks play out. There's so much parity, if you want to use that word, mediocrity, whatever word you want to use for the National League. I don't know who's going to open up. So I'll get to the trade targets next week. But for the Orioles, I know who I want to trade. I've thought about it, and here's my case, and then I'll get to the game tonight. I'm ready to move off of 3 guys. The first 2 are Hayes and Cowser, and we'll get to the third guy in a second. So Hayes and Cowser, however you got to get rid of them, those are the 2 guys I would trade. I would use that left field, and I wouldn't bring in another bat. I would just use that left field spot for Stowers and Kerstead. as a rotating. I know that those are both lefties. I've I've grown to really like Stowers. I thought his at bat against Holmes on last Sunday was overlooked. I shouldn't say overlooked because everybody's covering sports now, so you don't have to say overrated, underrated, all that kind of stuff is silly. But that was a huge part. That was great at bat. Almost had a double that was just foul, and then he ripped it right up the middle, forced Holmes to have to pitch with pressure, led to the comeback. Really like Stowers, and I just feel, I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like Kowser's value is significantly higher than Stowers. So for that reason, I would move Kowser without needing to replace him. The in-house replacement is right there. It's Kerstead. And like I said, Stowers, depending on what you do with Santander in the offseason, Stowers is right there for you. Same thing with O'Hearn. If both of those guys don't come back, Stowers has a spot. If you move off of Kowser and you move off of Hayes, the reason to move off of Hayes is a little different than Kowser. Kowser, I think he'll be good. I have a, he seems like a great guy. He plays great defense. He's young. So there's no, it's like a lot like Joey Ortiz. I hope he does well. I assume he will. But we have a better guy here. So that's just the reality of how the organization is. Hayes is different. I talked about this before. It's the chemistry, it's the uncertainty, it's trying to get him at bats that he shouldn't just be getting. Frankly, I think his value has increased tremendously over the past month or so. He had a rough start, but a lot of that can be chalked up to injuries. I imagine a team that is, around the fringes, whether it's a team like the Cardinals or the Giants or the Cubs, maybe they don't want to sell, maybe they want to go for it, but they need like one or two bats. Somebody like Hayes, or you take Hayes and you put him in the package with whether it's Kowser or something else that you want to do. I'll get to that in a second. And you just got to move him. You got to get off of him. I don't see the value in having him here anymore. Every time he bats, I think to myself, Kerstad should be batting. There's not one time. I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care if Hayes is 10 for 17 against the guy. Kerstad is my guy. That's what I would do. Which leads me to my third move to kind of cover Hayes' right-handed bat. I think it's officially time. And this really sucks because I like Ramon Arias. As a coach, you love guys that do whatever you ask them to do, play any position. That's Ramon Arias. I don't know what his value is. I don't think it's the right move to just send him down to AAA. And I can't move off Mateo. I'm not going to move off Mateo's speed, not in these close games, not when we're getting to the ninth inning. I can't do it. And as much as I like Ramon Arias, it's the weak link in the lineup. And at this point, I don't know what the value is. I don't think it really matters. It's kind of like the Austin Hayes situation where it's a better replacement. I think it's time for Kobe Mayo to come up. I'm not going to be the expert AAA, AA guy. I'm not going to pretend to do that. But if you read and you listen to the folks that cover this stuff, there's nothing else for him to work on besides defense. So we got to see it. The offense needs a jolt, especially if you move Hayes out of the lineup. You do want to have a right-handed bat in there. So what I would suggest, and I don't know if Westberg can handle it out in left field. I'm not sure if they want to do that. They've already asked him to play second and third. So ultimately, what I come down to is I want to move off Arias, I want to move off Hayes, and I want to move off Kowser. I want to replace them with Kerstead and Mayo. I lean towards Stowers as the replacement because I don't know how he can go down to AAA. My last caveat to everything I said is if you have to move Stowers, I think it's okay to do it because you can just bring up Connor Norby. So if you move off Stowers because you need to in order to get this awesome package, Stowers is a ready-made guy. You're making multiple trades. Stowers has to get moved. It's okay because then Mayo can come up, play that third base / DH role, and then Norby can play left field. If you really want to have the right-handed bat, which I get, I want to have a right-handed bat too, but I'm putting Kerstad's left-handed bat in the category of Gunner's left-handed bat, where you don't think about it. Gunner just always bats. It doesn't matter who's pitching, Gunner bats. That's how I feel about Kerstad's bat. So I'm not really worried about not having a right-handed outfielder. But I do, I'm sympathetic to defense. I've thought that through as well. And Hayes plays great defense out there. But Kerstead, and that's why I would lean towards keeping Stowers, because you could use Stowers as a defensive replacement for Kerstead if you feel like it's a little bit better there. But both of those guys have been playing great in left field. Um, at some point, and I think the past couple of weeks have shown it, we're not going to win the World Series just on Gunnar and Adley at the top of the lineup, and O'Hearn and Santander and Mountcastle. We got really good players, but we need one or two more guys in the lineup that are more consistent. So you're not putting undue pressure on guys that are really young. And that's what Gunnar and Adley are. It's just the situation. O'Hearn's, and it's not to talk down on these guys, but O'Hearn's not been a perennial all-star, either as Santander. Mountcastle's injury prone. If you think that the best bat or the two best bats, maybe besides Gunnar in the entire organization, are Kerstead and Mayo, and they're right there, they're ready. Yes, I'd like their defense to be a little bit better, but we can hide Mayo at first. He can just DH, and Westberg. The way I configured it all, if you bring Mayo up, him and O'Hearn can platoon at the DH spot, and Westberg just plays third, and Mateo plays second, and that's just the end of it. That's why the Norby Stowers debate, I think, is more interesting in my hypothetical of what to do with the roster than keeping Cowser and Hayes. I'd listen to the argument for Cowser more than I would for Hayes, just because I think Hayes' time's run out. It just doesn't fit, as I said. Cowser, it's a combination of things. I think Stowser and Kerstead might be better, and I think Cowser's value is higher. It's higher than Stowers. I don't know if it's higher than Kerstead, probably not. Maybe because of the injuries to Kerstead, it is, but it's higher than Stowers. He was a higher draft pick. He was rookie of the year or rookie of the month for April. He's got his numbers aren't terrible. I just think we have better players, and that all this stuff, maybe we wouldn't even talk about this if we didn't have what seems like, 4 injuries. I mean, between Wells, Coulomb, Coulomb, Bradish, right? Obviously, I know it's forgetting somebody, right? If we didn't have those 4 injuries, maybe we don't have to trade Hayes. Maybe we don't have to trade Cowser. Maybe you just kind of ride it out like this, and we're going to win the division by 8-10 games. But we don't. We have to upgrade the pitching. That's not up for debate. What's up for debate is what you want to give up, right? That's the debate. It's not a debate if the Orioles are adding pitching. Hell, we've added random free agents. It feels like every day. We had another one last week. They worked out against the Yankees. They pitched well, but that's not sustainable, I'm assuming, unless they're another Jacob Webb story, which, hey, Elias has been on the money with those. But we have to be realistic. We have to upgrade the bullpen. And for me, the starters is more up in the air. It just is. I don't know what starter is going to be available. We'll get to that next week. But there's definitely bullpen guys. There's definitely 10, 15 bullpen guys that will get moved that would be upgrades for the Orioles of what they have. But we need a big upgrade. We don't need somebody around the margins. We need somebody that I don't know if it's going to be a closer above Kimbrel, but I think it has to be above Cano. I think we need a right-hander that's above Cano, Webb, in that, whichever one you're more comfortable with these days. But I think we need one more power right-handed arm that's above both of those guys. And what I mean by above is in the highest leverage moments, that this is who you bring in. The ideal guy, if you're following baseball, you know his name, Mason Miller on the Athletics. That would be the dream. The Orioles have the prospects to do it. If you told me we had to move Cowser to get him, I would do it. That would be the move I would make. I don't know what the A's want. I'm not going to begin, excuse me, to dive all the way into what the other trade partners want until next week. I think it's just, let's see exactly how things play out over the next week or so before I just bloviate for an hour. Not doing this just for content. I know people need to talk about trades, and they have, whatever, radio shows, TV shows. It's a popular thing to talk about, but this is more about gambling. So I have, obviously following the Orioles, talking about the Orioles. I like talking about the Orioles, but I don't want to just talk about hypothetical trades to do it. So I think I guess that wraps it up as far as what I would do with the roster. And then next week, we'll go more into the trade partners, see exactly who's going to be available, what are the potential, mock trades that are floating, and then analyze them. As far as the lineup tonight, and as far as let's transition to the gambling aspect here and what I'm going to do and how I feel about this particular series and the Orioles. I, I don't know how to feel about tonight. Tonight is one of those games that I feel like I have to watch. I probably will only have one or two bets, some hitter props because I do think there's a couple good spots in the lineup. I like the lineup. But Evaldi's tough. He really is. So I'll see what the odds are after I finish here recording. Lions just came out, but it's tough. This Rangers team is tough. Burns's odds are always like he's got to pitch almost perfectly to cover those odds. I've been burned on him a couple times this year, so I don't think I'm going to take his props tonight. And yeah, I just don't. I'm not sure about the Orioles right this second because the roster is going to change one way or the other. It's going to change. I shouldn't say one way, probably three different ways, or it's going to change. So part of me is unsure because the roster's in flux. Part of me is unsure because of the way they've been playing. I mean, great. I'm glad we won the game on Sunday, but man, they have just not been playing very well. So I'd like to see them play well before I keep betting on them. That's also in the back of my mind. And then this Rangers team, they're loaded. They're 46-50. I talked about it in the beginning of the pod. They're probably they're the team that can go either way as far as trading their players or adding a couple players. You can make the argument either way. The Astros have struggled. The Mariners have come back to life. So they're only a handful of games out of first place. So a lot to be decided. I'm going to sit back tonight and watch. I want to see. I just need to see better energy, better at bats. You can't just look at the box score. You got to actually watch the games. And just the Orioles the past couple of weeks. Just I think this is what happens. They get into a rut. I don't know if everybody's trying to hit a home run. It's hard to get inside their heads, but they don't take enough pitches. They want to jump on the first pitch, and when it works, you're like, man, that's great. Jump on the first pitch. You're seeing the ball clearly. But when it doesn't, it can really wear on the rest of the lineup. And then the guys that are about to bat, they don't see enough pitches. So as a manager, I'm always erring on the side of let's take some pitches, especially early in the game. So we'll see what the approach is. Hope everybody has a good night. Again, thanks for, appreciate everybody. I promise to deliver the best content that you can find here, sports betting going into football season. Excited to be adding. I haven't decided exactly what baseball team, but I know I'm going to add at least one more team for some prop bets on a daily basis. So, all right, I have a good night. And if I don't record tomorrow, I'm just at my grandma's. It's just been a little tough over the past couple of days, but if I don't record tomorrow, I'll definitely record on Sunday. So, all right, have a good night, guys.